What's up, guys? We are back with a big Week 14 of college football picks for Saturday, November 30th. We have a great video for you today covering a ton of games and giving you my best leans on the side and over-under for each game. And we have a bunch of plays headed straight to the pinned comment where we put our favorite picks every single day. If you want to win all of your bets here in Week 14, hit that like button. It's good luck and shows support for the channel and all the hard work we're putting in every single day. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on our daily content, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on the value of watching these videos as early as possible so you get the best lines. Speaking of getting the videos early, all channel members get early access to all NCAA football and NFL videos. Sign up for a channel membership by clicking the little join button right below the video. Members also get their names up on screen just like right now. I really appreciate the support from all of you. Seeing that badge next to your comments keeps me fired up to bring you the best information on every single sport every single day. Our videos are brought to you by StumpTheSpread.com. We have a team of experienced cappers over there for every major sport, currently covering NFL, college football, NBA, NCAA basketball, NHL, and the UFC. This is the single best time of the year to sign up with our massive Black Friday sale. You can get a full week of premium picks for only $19 or a full month for only $69. We put a crazy amount of work into our premium content, and getting it at such a bargain here in the heart of the best time of the sports season with NFL, college football, the NBA, and NCAA basketball going on is a huge win for everyone. There's a link in the description of the video, or you can always just visit stumpthespread.com. Also, you want to be going over there to check our daily free picks, and you should certainly join our free email list, which will get you the occasional free or premium pick straight to your inbox. If you are interested in peer-to-peer sports betting where you can make your favorite bets against real people and pay only 1% juice, click the link in the description to check out Bet Openly, the best peer-to-peer betting site on the web. Comment below with any bets you're looking at today, and we will give you our best advice on all of them. We are committed to responding to every single comment every day, so let us know anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. As always, our favorite picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into our first game of the day, guys. We've got South Carolina, number 15 South Carolina, going on the road to take on Clemson. The Gamecocks come into this game fresh off of a blowout 56-12 win there over Wofford, so they've got to be feeling good about that. They also have to be feeling good about that win they had over number 23 Missouri. They've got a nice win over Texas A&M under their belts. Like, this team has been playing great here down the stretch, so they've got to feel good about that, and they are going into one of their toughest tests of the season as they go on the road to take on Clemson. Last week, obviously, we saw lots of positive things against Wofford. The week before that, going up against Mizzou, a 34-30 win. Good stuff there for South Carolina, guys. Sellers was great. 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. He passed for 353 yards. We loved what we saw from Raheem Sanders. He was good out there. Lenore Sellers was good. We loved what we saw in the passing game just in general. A very nice offensive day there from South Carolina as they, just continue to put up points. They only had that 1 turnover, so that's a very positive development as well. So just positive things across the board. On defense, giving up 30 points, maybe not ideal, but not a terrible day against a high-powered Mizzou defense. We did see the Gamecocks generate an interception. They struggled a little bit against the run, no doubt about that, but they did hold their own enough. And yeah, giving up 30 points, like I said, isn't great, but it was enough to get the job done. Over the course of the season, guys, we've seen South Carolina be very good defensively, giving up 18.2 points per game. And last week against Wofford, guys, they only gave up 12, albeit in a big step down competition, but still got to give them some credit. This has been an excellent defensive team over the course of the season, so we'll see what they can do here going on the road to take on the Clemson Tigers, who are 9-2 this season, currently ranked 12th in the nation. They just blew out Citadel in a big step down game last week, so not a whole lot to take from that, but the week before that, a nice 24-20 win there at Pitt. So yeah, plenty of credit there for the Clemson Tigers. I love what we're seeing from them at the moment. Klubnik had a nice day, 288 passing yards, a couple touchdowns there, no interceptions. He also ran for a touchdown and 41 yards on 10 carries. So a definite good game for him there against Pitt. A lot is on his shoulders in terms of, just producing for this offense. But Antonio Williams did what, he was right there with him. He had a massive day, 13 receptions, 149 yards, and 2 touchdowns there in that win over Pitt. So loved what we saw there. They did fumble it away once. So Klubnik did have that 1 turnover, but only 1 turnover in the whole game. Not too bad. They only gave up 20 points to Pitt, which is a nice outing. They did give up 350 passing yards, which is definitely something that is, got me a little bit concerned in this game. They didn't do an amazing job, but not a terrible job, I guess, against the run, but it wasn't awesome, guys. Desmond Reed had 68 yards, and it only took him 14 carries to get those yards. So didn't love what we saw from Clemson there in terms of their defense. Over the course of the season, they've been very good, allowing 22 points per game. That's 40th in the NCAA. So I don't think we're expecting this team to, suddenly be terrible on defense, but it's just a little bit of a concern that I have. In terms of the numbers for this game, guys, we see Clemson. They are 3-point favorites in this one. We've got an over-under of 49.5. South Carolina is 8-3 against the spread this season. They are 7-4 to the over. Clemson, they are 5-6 against the spread and 6-5 to the under. I really like South Carolina and the points in this one. Both of these teams still have a lot to play for as potential playoff teams on the outside looking in, and the winner of this one will pick up a huge resume building win. South Carolina could have been in an even better spot than they currently are if they didn't have to deal with the stretch of starting Lenora Sellers being out with injury. But yeah, South Carolina has been one of the best teams in the SEC over the past month plus of action. With Sellers back in the lineup, we're still a little skeptical on Clemson and the ACC as a whole. I'll take the SEC squad and the points in this rivalry game. In terms of the over-under here, we've got mixed trends. We've got a total here of 49.5. Neither team is terrible on defense, guys. I'm going to shade just a hair here towards the under, but it's going to be no bet there on the over-under for me. Next on the docket, we're looking at the UTSA Roadrunners. They're going on the road to take on the Army Black Knights. The Roadrunners come into this one fresh off of a nice win, a 51-27 dominant win there over Temple. Not really the toughest opponent there in the Temple Owls, but still got to give the Roadrunners credit. They went in there and got the job done. We saw Owen McCown, a pretty nice day for him if you can remove those couple of interceptions, but it's really the running game that powered this team, and that's generally the case. We saw Robert Henry, he broke off an 88-yard run. McCown broke off a 75-yard run of his own. Just a crazy day on the ground there for the Roadrunners, a very appropriately named team, guys. I mean, Robert Henry, 178 yards on 16 carries. McCown had 75 yards on his 6 carries. They both found the end zone. Brandon Hyde Jr. did some good stuff on the ground. He had a rushing touchdown. We did see them fumble the ball away once. They turned the ball over 3 times and still won in dominant fashion. So, good stuff there from USTA, but like I said, not against the toughest opponent. They were able to force turnovers there against Temple. They held the Temple running game completely in check. The Roadrunners had 3 turnovers, forced 3 turnovers in this game. So loved what we saw from them on defense. I don't know if that's something we can expect them to do all the time necessarily. Over the course of the season, they're giving up over 30 points per game. They're ranked somewhere in the low hundreds nationally in terms of their defensive efficiency. So we're a little bit concerned about that. They're going on the road here to take on the Army Black Knights, who are coming off their first loss of the season. It was a big step-up spot for them, no doubt about that. They went, to take on Notre Dame, and they ended up taking a 49-14 absolute beatdown. So a big setback there for the Army Black Knights. They've got a lot of work to do here at the end of the season, but I don't think they have the quality opponents to, take down to make that happen. So don't think they're going to be able to be in the college football playoff, but I think this team still probably remains fairly motivated. In that loss against Notre Dame, they just couldn't get their running attack doing what they needed it to do, but the bigger problem was their defense, guys. But on offense, putting up only 14 points, that's not going to work, especially, when on defense you're giving up 49. I mean, Riley Leonard had a good day against them. They couldn't stop the Notre Dame running attack. It was just very clear that the Black Knights were outclassed in this game. Now, that was just in this game against a very good Notre Dame team that's, going to be very likely playing in the college football playoff. So we're going to cut the Black Knights some slack here. This was definitely their toughest opponent of the year. Looking at the numbers for this one, guys, we see Army, they're -6.5. We've got an over-under of 54.5. UTSA, they are 5-6 against the spread this season. They're 8-3 to the over. Army 7-2-1 against the spread. They are 6-4 to the over themselves. I like the Army Black Knights here at minus less than a touchdown. That seems like great value to me. We got very low on UTSA through the first half of the regular season, but to be fair to the Roadrunners, they've been much improved over the past month. They reached bowl eligibility in their last outing, getting past Temple there in that game we just discussed. They've taken a nice step forward on the offensive side of the ball. I'm still pretty low on their defense, which is 108th in the nation in points allowed. Army's been probably the best team in the AAC this season, 9-1 overall, 7-0 in the conference. The Black Knights have strengths on both sides of the ball, 34th in the nation in scoring, 1st in rushing, 6th in total defense. They got blown out last week, guys, so it's time for a big bounce back for them, and I think that's what we'll see in this one. I think they're going to control the game here. I think they can easily win this by a couple of touchdowns, so taking them -6.5 seems like excellent value. In terms of the over-under, both teams are showing trends towards the over here. I don't love either defense. I guess I would shade slightly towards the over, but it's not an over-under spot that I really like. Moving right along through this slate, guys, we are looking at the South Florida Bulls. They're going on the road to take on the Rice Owls. South Florida comes into this game 6-5 on the season, fresh off a nice 63-30 win there over Tulsa. Not only Tulsa's the toughest opponent, they're only 1-6 now in conference play, but we got to give the Florida Bulls, some credit, guys. They played a great game. Putting up 63 points is wild, wild stuff. We saw Archie and Carter combine to pass for 4 touchdowns and well over 400 yards of total offense. There was only 1 interception mixed in there. That was Archie. He got picked off once, but the running game was great as well. This offense was just firing on all cylinders. They ended up with 308 rushing yards on 52 carries. Kelly Joyner, guys, 10 carries, 131 yards for him and a couple of touchdowns. Just dominant stuff. Not a whole lot to really dive into, guys. This was obviously a game where South Florida just outclassed Tulsa in pretty much every way, and they were just flying around out there. So a huge win there for the Bulls. Their defense didn't look incredible. They did have 3 interceptions, so that's pretty nice. 5 total turnovers is God mode type stuff, but that was against a pretty bad opponent. They still managed to give up 30 points in the game, so they didn't stay locked in the whole way, which, to be honest, really, like, why would you in such a blowout game? But, you know, it's something to keep an eye on a little bit. Over the course of the season, South Florida on defense is giving up 28.5 points per game. That's right around 95th in the nation. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's just a little bit of something to keep in mind here as they go on the road to take on the Rice Owls, who are now 3-8 on the season. They are 2-5 there in conference play in the American. They're coming into this game off of a 40-14 blowout there at UAB. Yeah, not having a great time, guys. The Rice Owls have had a bit of a rough season. We saw Warner have a bad game last week against UAB. He was picked off 3 times, only had the 1 touchdown pass. We also saw the Owls struggle a bit in the running game. I mean, 16 carries for 62 yards and 1 touchdown there for Connors. Not really going to get me too excited, and nobody went particularly nuts there in the receiving core. We also saw a fumble. So, yeah, they ended up turning the ball over 4 times. You're not going to keep the game close against a much better opponent when you just cannot take care of the ball. So that's a huge concern. Their defense also wasn't good, guys. They couldn't stop the pass. They really couldn't stop the run. They didn't generate any interceptions. They only had 1 turnover in total. They had 1 fumble recovery. So I'll give them a little bit of credit for that, but really not a very good day out there for the Rice defense, guys. And in general this season, like I said, it's been a rough year. They're not a horrible defensive team, giving up 25.2 points per game, but certainly not great. And the offensive numbers leave an awful lot to be desired as well. So looking at the numbers for this one, we see the Rice Owls are getting 5.5 points here. USF, they are 6-5 against the spread. They're 5-1 to the over/under. Rice, 4-6-1 against the spread. They are 7-4 to the under. Guys, I think this is a great spot to take South Florida here at -5.5. Right when we started, gaining some confidence in Rice, they were completely outclassed last week on the road against a lower tier AAC opponent, losing to UAB there in that blowout. South Florida has been surging, winning 4 of their last 5 games, scoring a ton of points over that stretch as well. They have a clear offensive edge in this matchup. I think is going to really come into effect here. I feel great about taking the red-hot USF Bulls to get the comfortable win and cover in this game. And in terms of that over-under, I would probably shade just a hair towards the under, but not an over-under spot that I love, guys. I just don't think we can trust Rice enough to get us to over in this game, and neither defense is really amazing. So just give me a tiny look there at that under. Next on the docket, guys, we've got a big SEC showdown. We've got the Arkansas Razorbacks going on the road to take on the Missouri Tigers. Arkansas comes in this game fresh off of a step-down win, guys. They went against Louisiana Tech. They got a big win in that one, 35-14, but, not a massive blowout. They did not suffer a huge letdown after, which was possible after their 20-10 loss there against then number 3 Texas. So, yeah, we'll cut them a little bit of slack. This has been an interesting team. They've had some good outings this season for sure. A blowout win at Mississippi State was nice. That win over then number 4 Tennessee was pretty good. They played some close games against some elite opponents, and they just couldn't string together enough consistent wins to, make their mark this season. Last week against Louisiana Tech, guys, obviously we're going to see a lot of positive numbers. Taylor Green did manage to get picked off once, so that's not great. 1 interception, 2 touchdowns, only 221 yards. The running game was the main focus here of the offense, and it wasn't insane. 40 carries, 233 yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. It looks okay, but it just didn't feel like super dominant, especially given the caliber of opponent they were facing in this game. So, yeah, not in love with what we saw from Arkansas there on offense, and they ended up turning the ball over a total of 3 times. That's a recipe to let a kind of, not great team stick around, so you don't love that. They were also very mediocre on defense, giving up 2 passing touchdowns, almost 200 yards through the air. They did stop the running game, so I guess they deserve some credit for that, but yeah, just not a dominant performance there from Arkansas like you would expect them to have going up against a much weaker opponent. They only forced 1 turnover in the game. That's not a great look. And over the course of the season, Arkansas, they have been pretty good on defense. I mean, not amazing though. Giving up 24.6 points per game leaves them somewhere around 60 or 70th in the nation. So not super high on Arkansas here as they go on the road to take on the Missouri Tigers, who are now 8-3 on the season, coming off of a win there against Mississippi State, a 39-20 win on the road in the SEC. Not a bad look for anyone. Mizzou still, hanging around there in the top 25, but not going to be a team that ends up participating there in the, in the college football playoff. That's a little bit disappointing for a team that came into this season with sky-high expectations. Last week against Mississippi State, we saw some very, very good stuff. Brady Cook, 1 touchdown, 268 yards, 0 interceptions though, so that's a nice look, and the running game was fully online, guys. 3 rushing touchdowns, 240 yards on the ground. Nate Noel was good. Marcus Carroll was good. Mississippi State just could not stop them. So, we'll give a lot of credit there to the running game for the Tigers. We did see Luther Burden III have a nice day catching the ball. 7 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown. 0 turnovers there for Mizzou. That's a big, big deal for this team. If they keep from turning the ball over, they're going to put up some points. And their defense isn't the worst, guys. I mean, they gave up 20 points last week, 1 passing touchdown, but less than 200 passing yards. They did struggle a bit against the run there, so that's a bit of a problem. But overall, I don't think it was a terrible performance. They did, force 1 turnover in the game, and giving up only 20 points isn't awful there in college football. I mean, over the course of the season, that's been right around Mizzou's average. That has them 22nd in the nation. So I don't think that's something you want to be complaining about. A top 25 defense to go along with this offense was part of the reason a lot of people thought this team was going to end up in the college football playoffs. So we'll see what they can do in this one. Playing at home, the Tigers are 3-point favorites. We've got an over-under of 53.5. We see Arkansas, they are 7-4 against the spread. They're 6-5 to the over. Mizzou, 7-4 against the spread. Also, they are 6-5 to the under. Guys, this is a spot where I love the Mizzou Tigers. Even though they've come up short in their sky-high preseason expectations, it's still been a respectable year for Mizzou. They're 8-3 overall, ranked in the top 25. Missouri has been one of the better performing teams in the SEC over the past few weeks. That win over Oklahoma is looking better and better after what the Sooners did to Alabama, and coming up just short on the road against a red-hot South Carolina Gamecocks team. That doesn't look awful either. Arkansas reached bowl eligibility last week with their win against Louisiana Tech, so there isn't that added incentive to win this week against Mizzou. Missouri has a great home field advantage. We like the Tigers to come through here with the comfortable win and cover. In terms of that over-under of 53.5, I'd probably lean towards the over, but it's not an over-under spot that I think is worth betting. Next on the slate, guys, we're looking at the Purdue Boilermakers. They're going on the road to take on the number 10 Indiana Hoosiers. Purdue comes into this game having a pretty rough season. They're 1-10 overall. They come into this game fresh off of a very competitive game, though, at Michigan State. They ended up losing 24-17, but definitely kept things close there in what, is kind of at least a step-up game for Purdue, who, they've had a rough time this year, no doubt about it, but they've played some competitive games against some decent teams. They've also had some rough ones, getting shut out by Oregon, shut out by Ohio State, but those are 2 of the best teams in the nation. So going to cut them a little bit of slack here. I'm not, going to be too over the top, but I do like what we've seen from Purdue here down the stretch. Last week, guys, in that, close 1-score loss there against Michigan State, we saw Hudson Card absolutely slinging it out there. 342 yards, a touchdown, and 1 interception. So, getting picked off, not great, but being able to move the ball through the air like that is a great look for this team. They didn't have much going on in the running game, no shocker there, but yeah, they really were moving it through the air. We saw several wide receivers have very respectable days as well. Really, really liked what we saw there from Purdue on offense. Despite the fact they only put up 17 points, they were moving the ball, absolutely moving the ball in this one. They did fumble it away once, so that's not great, but the defense picked up a little bit of the slack. I mean, they didn't generate any interceptions, but they only allowed Michigan State to complete less than half of their passes. A couple touchdowns there. They gave up only 134 yards on 38 carries, so that's very good as well. The Purdue defense definitely stepping up here. They did struggle to create, turnovers, that's for sure, but hey, you can only do so much, and when you're holding your opponent to 24 points, that's a pretty nice day out there. Over the course of the season, they haven't been a great defense necessarily, but over their last couple of games, they've done some positive things, and that's been against some elite competition. So we'll see what they can do here. They're facing another elite opponent in the Indiana Hoosiers. They come into this game 10-1 on the season. They're fresh off of a tough 38-15 loss there at Ohio State. This will be their last game of the season. It's kind of a big rivalry spot, so we'll see what they can do here. I mean, in that loss against Ohio State, it felt like they were honestly a little bit outclassed, which isn't what Hoosiers fans are going to want to hear, but yeah, you lose 38-15. That was not a particularly competitive game. I mean, Indiana led in the first quarter, I guess, but other than that, not great. We saw Ohio State scoring double digits in each preceding each quarter after that. So not a great look there. I mean, Indiana could not get anything going in the passing game whatsoever. The running game was their only hope, and they averaged around 2 yards per carry in the game. Not great, guys. Not a very talented looking offense in that one. They turned the ball over once. That's not good either. And yeah, on defense, they had very few answers there for Ohio State. I mean, they gave up 22 of 26 there for 201 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception against Will Howard. So I guess that one turnover is a bright spot, but not a good day, giving up 38 points. They could not stop the run, really. And yeah, it was just a rough day out there for Indiana in general. And obviously, this has been a very good team over the course of the season, guys. They've got some big wins, and they've done some great stuff. Their numbers are very good. They're 9th in the nation in points against, 37th in passing yards. They're 2nd in the nation in points per game. So yeah, expecting good stuff from Indiana in this one. And I think they'll be a very exciting team to see there in the college football playoff. But in this game, guys, Indiana's 29-point favorites. There's an over-under out there of 56.5. Purdue 3-8 against the spread, 5-6 to the over. Indiana 8-3 against the spread and 8-3 to the over themselves. Guys, I like Purdue here and all of these points. Anything can happen in a rivalry game, and I obviously don't expect Purdue to really be pushing for an upset here, but I'd be surprised if they can't stay relatively competitive given they have nothing to lose in this matchup. This is the Super Bowl right here for Purdue, as they're not going to postseason play, and they'd love to play spoiler against their rival. Purdue was somewhat surprisingly competitive against Michigan State in their last outing. Hudson Card looked fantastic out there with those 342 yards. All the pressure is on Indiana to perform in this spot, and it's that high pressure situation that can make these games closer than what the odds makers think. So definitely think this is a great spot to take Purdue in all these points. And in terms of that over-under, with both teams showing trends towards the over, I think you probably want to take the over here. I mean, if we end up in a game that Indiana scores, around 30 points and Purdue scores as well, like this thing could get out of hand. So yeah, I think we could end up with an over here as well, but the real value in this game is definitely Purdue and those points. Next up, guys, we've got one of the marquee games today. We've got the number 3 Texas Longhorns. They're going on the road to take on the number 20 Texas A&M Aggies. Texas comes into this game fresh off of another win, guys, a 31-14 win there at home over Kentucky. So very, very solid stuff there. I mean, Texas doing their thing out there, absolutely killing. I guess a relatively competitive game, but not necessarily. I don't feel like the outcome was ever that much in doubt. We saw Quinn Ewers, guys, a nice day for him, 191 yards, 2 touchdown passes. 20 of 31, maybe a little bit of work to be done there, but overall, a nice game for him. But that wasn't the main focus, guys. The Longhorns were going nuts running the ball. We saw Wisner, 26 carries, 158 yards, and a touchdown. Blue, 15 carries, 96 yards, and a touchdown for him as well. Just a dominant performance there from the Longhorns running attack. Something they'll be hoping to, get going again in this one. We'll see if that happens, but definitely going to be the focus of this team. Concerningly, we did see them fumble the ball away a couple times. Fumbling away twice, those couple of turnovers are kind of what allowed Kentucky to stay relatively attached in this game. So some things to be cleaned up there for the Longhorns. You cannot make mistakes like that against elite opponents, and that's kind of what they're going to be facing in this one. In terms of their defense last week, the Longhorns did a good job against the pass. A couple of interceptions there is a nice look. They completely dominated against the run, so that was great as well. They came up with those 2 turnovers in the entire game, so maybe not incredibly elite numbers, but definitely got to give them credit here. That's a nice game to give up only 14 points. And yeah, over the course of the season, this has been a dominant defensive team, guys. 3rd in the nation in points against, 16th in the nation in passing yards. They're scoring 38.5 points per game. They've got some nice wins under their belt this year, although they could use a nice resume builder here, not gonna lie. So we'll see what they can do going on the road here to take on the Texas A&M Aggies, who are 20th in the nation, 8-3 on the season. They come into this game fresh off of an absolute heartbreaking loss there last week at Auburn, guys. They lost that game 43-41. Devastating stuff there. We saw Auburn storm the field there. It was a 4 overtime thriller there for Texas A&M. Just, crazy stuff. It has to be a massive letdown for them. We saw Marcel Reed had one bad interception, but other than that, a pretty good game. 3 touchdowns, nearly 300 yards passing. Nothing wrong with that. The running game was getting their work done too. I mean, 52 carries is a lot, but we saw both Daniels and Reed look really decent there on the ground and put up a couple of rushing touchdowns, so that's nice. They had no fumbles in the game, so that's a big deal. We saw Noah Thomas have a massive day, 124 receiving yards on 5 catches and a couple of touchdowns for him, and it just all wasn't quite enough there in the end. The defense did not show up for this game, giving up those 43 points. They had a hard time against the Auburn rushing attack. They also didn't do great against the pass, giving up over 300 yards, a couple of touchdowns, and they had that one interception, but other than that, guys, not a great day for the defense, and giving up 43 points is a pretty rough look there for Texas A&M. So we'll see if they can bounce back in this one. Over the course of the season, the defense, not terrible, 37th in the nation, but just not quite enough to get them over the top there, that last one. So we'll see what they do in this game, guys. Texas A&M getting 5.5 points there at home. And the over-under is 49. Texas, they are 6-5 against the spread this season, 6-3-2 to the under. Texas A&M, they're only 3-8 against the spread. They're 7-4 to the over. Guys, I'm going to be on Texas -5 in this one. The Longhorns would love to pick up a strong resume-building win here in the final week of the regular season. They want to lock up their place in the SEC title game and in the college playoff. Perhaps some feel Texas has been as consistently dominant as they should be given the talent on their roster, but this is still a team that ranks an impressive 8th in the nation in scoring and 3rd in total defense. Texas A&M was surging, but the Aggies have come back to reality, losing back-to-back SEC games, falling against South Carolina and Auburn. Texas A&M has a great home field advantage, and they could maybe even make a run at an at-large bid to the playoff with an upset win against Texas, but given how these teams have been playing, I like the Longhorns here giving the points. I think they're going to be just fine in this matchup. I think the Aggies are kind of on their way down to here to the end of the season, which I'm sure is not what their fans want to hear, but guys, you just got to speak the truth here, and I definitely think the value in this game is on the Texas Longhorns. In terms of that over-under, we've got mixed trends here. It's an over-under that I'm staying away from. Next on the docket, guys, we are looking at the number 24 Kansas State Wildcats going on the road here to take on number 18 Iowa State. The Wildcats come into this game fresh off of a much-needed win there over Cincinnati. They had lost 2 in a row before that, but now got back on the right track with a 41-15 blowout win. In that game against the Bearcats, guys, we saw Avery Johnson look very good there under center. 2 passing touchdowns, 147 yards through the air, and 0 interceptions. So very good stuff there. Completing 13 of 23 passes maybe leaves some room there for improvement, but it didn't really matter, guys. Kansas State wanted to run the ball, and run the ball they did, guys. Giddens had a massive game, 15 carries, 143 yards, a couple of touchdowns. We also saw Avery Johnson himself taking off 10 times for 72 yards and a touchdown. Like, this team ended up with 40 carries and 281 yards on the ground and 3 rushing touchdowns. So absolutely elite stuff. The receiving game looked good as well. Nobody putting up insane numbers, but they managed to go through this whole game without turning over the ball. So just a dominant day out there for that Kansas State offense. And the defense wasn't far behind them, guys, allowing only 15 points in this game, getting an interception there. They did struggle a bit against the run, so that's something to keep an eye on for this game. But generally speaking, we had to love how they played. They didn't generate, more than that 1 turnover. And over the course of the season, they're giving up 21.3 points per game, which is not terrible. That's top 35 in the nation. So overall, pretty happy with how Kansas State played last week. Although down the stretch, guys, there have been plenty of question marks for the Wildcats. So we'll see what they can do here as they go on the road to take on the Iowa State Cyclones, who come into this game fresh off of another win. They got the 31-28 win there at Utah. Not the easiest place to play, guys. Not the toughest opponent. So a game that was probably closer than it should have been, but they managed to get the win there in the end. They needed to hold on there in the fourth quarter, giving up 15 points in the fourth, but they managed to make that happen. We saw very good stuff in the passing game. 1 interception there isn't a great look, but 256 yards and a passing touchdown will work. And this is a team that really wants to run the ball, and they did that pretty successfully, guys. Hansen, 14 carries, 57 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. So a very nice night for him. Not as dominant of a win as you would have hoped to see if you were an Iowa State fan in this matchup, but guys, going on the road to play at Utah is no easy task. So you'll take that win when you can get it, guys. Jaden Higgins had a massive game, caught 9 balls for 155 yards and a touchdown. So great stuff from him. Overall, not a bad day at all there for the Cyclones. They did fumble it away once, and that 1 interception, that was a big part of why this game was close. And the defense wasn't maybe completely up to the task, although when you look at the numbers, they gave up a lot of points, but the numbers they gave up, the yardage they gave up was dominant, guys. They gave up only 129 passing yards. They gave up only 95 rushing yards. This game should not have been this close. If it wasn't for those mistakes there by the offense, it would not have been like this. And over the course of the season, guys, Iowa State has been a a very good defensive team. That's not going to be a big shocker, guys. They're giving up 19.5 points per game. That's easily top 20 in the nation. So yeah, this defense gonna bounce back here for sure. I don't think we see them give up this many points again, and hopefully the offense won't be putting them in as many bad situations. Guys, looking at the numbers for this game, Iowa State is -2.5. We've got an over-under of 51.5 out there. Kansas State 4-7 against the spread. They're 5-1 to the over/under. Iowa State 6-5 against the spread and 6-5 to the over. So right off the bat, guys, no interest in this over/under, but I do really like taking Iowa State here at -2.5 playing at home. Both of these teams have been slight disappointments, with Kansas State losing 2 of their last 3 and Iowa State losing 2 of their last 4 games there in the Big 12. These are still 2 of the better teams in the Big 12, though. They have not been consistently as strong as we'd like to see down the stretch. Iowa State has a solid home field advantage, and they should have the motivation edge as they are still in a good spot to make the Big 12 title game with a win. So definitely give me the Iowa State Cyclones to win this game by at least a field goal. Next up, we're going to look at the Houston Cougars. They're going on the road to take on the BYU Cougars in a Cougars versus Cougars matchup here. Houston comes into this game only 4-7 on the year. They've played a little bit better here down the stretch, but lost their last 2 in a row, falling against Baylor last week 20-10, and the week before that getting blown out there at Arizona. So yeah, definitely work to be done here for the the Houston Cougars. They've had their ups and downs this season for sure, and last week was a bit of a down with that 20-10 loss. We saw, Chris there, not the best day, getting picked off 3 times. It's a pretty rough look, and I mean, it's not against the toughest opponent either, so definitely plenty of room for concern there. And yeah, I don't know what the plan is there long term, guys, but you can't see that guy go out there and complete 13 of 24 and get picked off 3 times and not think that this is a bit of a questionable situation. The running game was pretty bleak as well, guys. I mean, Sanford the second, 8 carries, 37 yards. Chris, 10 carries, 27 yards. Like, this is just a bad offensive team right now for Houston. So we'll see if they can turn things around in the offseason, see how much they change things up. But right now, not in love with this offense, guys. And it's not like the defense was that much better. I mean, they only gave it 20 points when your offense turns the ball over 4 times. That can make things a little bit tricky. The Houston defense did have 3 interceptions of its own, so that helped keep them kind of in the game. They gave up 204 passing yards and a couple of passing touchdowns. They did struggle there against the run. They had very few answers there for Bryson Washington, who had 113 yards on 28 carries all by himself. So yeah, not super high on the Houston Cougars right now, or just in general this season. I mean, they did play some decent defense early in the year, and they're top 50 in the nation defensively, but they're 134th in the nation, only averaging 13.6 points per game. So not a ton of positive things to say here about Houston as they go on the road to take on BYU, who've now dropped 2 in a row, guys. They lost last week at number 21 Arizona State. They lost that game 28-23, and that's on the heels of a 17-13 loss there against Kansas. So yeah, the Cougars have a lot of work to do here at the end of the year if they want to make it into the college football playoff. Kind of felt great to see the Arizona State Sun Devil fans storm storm the field, and it was a crazy thing there at the end of the game. Just a wild ending overall. Yeah, BYU takes the loss, though. No way around it, guys. I mean, yeah, they had a couple interceptions in the game. That kind of cancels out 346 yards and a touchdown if you're going to get picked off twice. That's going to ruin the party for sure. The running game did look decent. A couple of rushing touchdowns there. 94 yards on 23 carries, though, isn't enough to dominate a game, and that's what they want to be doing there with the running game. I mean, Chase Roberts did have a good one, and so did Lassiter, guys. They each caught over 100 yards there, but neither one of them found the end zone, and that was a big problem there at the end. So we'll see if the BYU offense can turn it around, and the defense is going to have to be better as well. Giving up 28 points is not great. They did force a 1 interception, but that was their only turnover. They struggled against the run. They struggled against the pass a little bit, but they're taking on a terrible offensive team in this one. So this could be a pretty easy spot to turn it around here for the Cougars, and the odds makers think that's the case, guys. BYU is -12.5 in this one. We've got an over-under of 41.5. Houston 5-6 against the spread. They're 10-1 to the under. That's an NCAA football best to the under. BYU 7-4 against the spread. They're actually 8-3 to the over, so probably going to be avoiding the over-under in this one, but we definitely like BYU here at -12.5. They've taken a step back here with losses in back-to-back weeks against Kansas and Arizona State, but we're still not completely out on the Cougars given these defeats were very competitive and came against 2 of the hottest teams in the Big 12 right now. The bigger difference maker for us in this matchup should be the edge BYU has with their 25th ranked defense going against Houston's 134th ranked offense. We wouldn't be surprised to see Houston scoring in the single digits, and with that being the case, I like BYU to win and cover the spread in this game. You could also talk me into the under just a little bit based on these trends, but the real value in this game is going to be BYU to win this by a couple touchdowns. Last but not least here, guys, we're looking at the Marshall Thundering Herd. They're going on the road to take on the James Madison Dukes. Marshall comes into this game fresh off of a 42-35 win there at Old Dominion last week, so they'll definitely take that. And at 6-1 in conference play there in the Sun Belt, they've got to be feeling pretty good. And now they've got to take on another team there in the eastern part of the Sun Belt. So we'll see what they can do against James Madison. Last week against Old Dominion was pretty tough out there for Marshall. I mean, a single score win there, despite Braylon Braxton scoring 3 passing touchdowns there for 210 yards. He completed 13 of 24, so that's not amazing necessarily, but the dude was electric with his legs. 18 carries, 140 yards there, so very good stuff there. Jordan Houston had a nice day running the ball as well and found the end zone. Pretty decent stuff across the board. No, one wide receiver really popped off for anything insane, but just overall a very nice day for this Marshall offense, which is kind of what you come to expect. But on defense, it was a bit of a different story, guys. They gave up 35 points. They could not stop the run or the pass. Colton Joseph, 227 passing yards. He did get picked off once, so I guess, there's the little bonus there for Marshall. But yeah, he also was insane on the ground. 2 rushing touchdowns, 158 yards on the ground. Aaron Young, 111 yards on the ground on 18 carries and a couple touchdowns for him. We saw, Marshall was able to force 2 turnovers. That was probably the difference in this game, if I'm being honest. But yeah, scary stuff there for Marshall. Not a game they were supposed to lose. Not even a game that was supposed to be that close. And they really, really made it interesting down the stretch. So we'll see what they can do here as they go on the road to take on the James Madison Dukes, who do come into this game fresh off a loss, a 34-20 loss at Appalachian State. Not the easiest team to face, not the easiest place to play. And yeah, the Dukes just couldn't quite get the job done there. Although, things were relatively competitive in this game. JMU just had very little going there in the second half on offense. Over the course of the game, we saw the Dukes passing game. I mean, I don't know, Barnett the third, guys, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. So yeah, that 1 interception can really mess things up. The running game did look good though, 168 yards on 38 carries, but no rushing touchdowns. Yeah, it's going to be tough to win games when you only score 20 points, and that's not the norm necessarily. We also saw James Madison fumble it away once. This is probably just a game they wish they could forget because things did not work out, and they didn't work out in a pretty big way there. So we'll see if they can play a little bit better on defense. Obviously, giving up 34 points, not great. They struggled against the pass. Although they weren't, I wouldn't say horrible, but they didn't do a very good job stopping the run either. I mean, Marshall against them had 24 carries, 108 yards, and a touchdown. So yeah, that was a bit of a rough look, and they couldn't stop Micah Jackson. He had 5 receptions, 162 yards, and a receiving touchdown as well. So gonna need to be better there on defense. Over the course of the season, James Madison, 19th in the nation, giving up 19.5 points per game. So definitely expecting their defense to play much, much better in this one. Looking at the numbers, we see James Madison actually favored by 3.5 here playing at home. We've got an over-under of 52.5. Marshall, 9-2 against the spread this year, 6-5 to the under. JMU, 6-5 against the spread, and 8-3 to the under. So right off the bat, guys, I think this is a great game to look at the under. I would definitely take under 52.5 in the spot. I think it's great value. I also love James Madison here at -3.5. Unfortunately for them, they're not going to be going to the conference title game, but they might have some incentive here trying to play spoiler against Marshall. We feel when playing to their ceiling, James Madison is arguably the best team in the Sun Belt, and you see it with the numbers that the Dukes are posting, 24th in the nation in scoring and 19th in total defense. This is a big contrast to the top standing Marshall Thundering Herd, who are 51st and 61st in these respective categories. I like James Madison to close the regular season out on a high note at home as they take down Marshall with the win and cover. That's all the games we have for today, guys. Hit that like button for good luck on all of your bets. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and don't forget to check out snubthespread.com to get in on all of those crazy Black Friday sales. They're going nuts right now. We're actually riding a little bit of a hot streak there in NBA picks, and just across the board, things are going really well. So definitely want to get over there, check that out, get on the email list, all that good stuff. There's lots of free content over you for there as well. So definitely get over there and check that out. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate. We're going to be coming back at you tomorrow with a big NFL video, so stay tuned for that. And you can click the link in the description, like I said, to check out snubthespread.com, and we will see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action there on that big NFL video.